Well, that was definitely a lot easier. Well, for the most part. Anyway, a 15-minute bike ride as opposed to a 9 hours hike. Yeah, welcome to Spurn Point. We're going to do some photography tonight with one lens, the all-rounder, the ultimate micro four thirds lens. So I've come out tonight with one photograph in mind, but that's going to be towards the back end of the video. It's going to require a little bit of tide, and right now we're shortly after high tide, so we just need a little bit more water. So we're just going to have a little bit of a play around with some of the buildings and some of the structures before we move on to the picture that I actually want to get. So I thought we'd take a photograph. We're just starting off with this lighthouse. Now, it's going to be a bit bland, but it's always a bit of fun just to get your eye in and start working with photographs. So this first one's probably going to be a little bit naff, in all honesty, but well, we'll have a go anyway. So we're going to start off at 12mm, nice and wide. I'm going to focus on the lighthouse in the distance, and I'm going to use some of this old concrete base here, just as a bit of a foreground element, just hopefully just trying to balance things out if more than anything else. F4 at 2,000th of a second, and ISO 200. There we go. That's the first photograph taken. Just a little bit of fun, just to get into it for the night. So over this last week, I've had a lot of people tell me just how much they enjoy using this lens, this Olympus 12-40 f4 Pro, and I can see why. A lot of people have said it's their go-to travel lens, and with a focal range from 12mm to 100mm, I can definitely see why that would be useful. There's no reason to pack anything else, especially if you're doing something like I'm doing tonight, it's just exploring one place. Everything is here. You can get the wide shot, you can get the zoomed in shot on the things that are far away, you can compress the background, you can exaggerate the foreground, you can do almost everything with this lens. So that's my plan tonight, is to take a few photographs just encompassing all of the focal range before we get onto the photograph that I've said I've come out to take. Here's a couple of photographs that I've just taken from the beam of the lighthouse. So my plan now is to cycle as far down this track as possible. You see, for all the time I've spent down this peninsula, Spurn Point, essentially East Yorkshire's own little Land's End, I've never actually been to the end, and there is something down there that I've always thought would make a fun little subject for a photograph. Now, I have no idea if it's still there, and if it is, I have no idea how accessible it's going to be for my very inappropriate town bike. Let's just see, let's see how close to the tip of Spurn Point we can get. Hopefully while we're doing that, the tide's going to come in a little bit more for this long exposure photograph that I have in mind. But oh my god, wow. Look at the size of that container ship. I gather the ultra wide lens on this isn't going to do this justice, but that's quite impressive. So I just wanted to get off the bike for a second just to show you all this. See, up until a few years ago, all of these houses were manned by families for the lifeboat station. It's sadly now been automated, as much of the world is, but the houses are still standing, and I often wonder just how much fun it would have been to live out here, especially in the middle of winter when the storms are battering and the waves and the rain and the wind and everything. It just, for me, this is just an awesome little place to explore, and in a few years I would imagine a lot of these houses are going to be ruined. I don't know if anybody maintains them, I don't know if anybody actually really comes down here other than Yorkshire Wildlife Trust, but yeah, it's just a shame you can no longer really access it. The road got washed out in a storm surge, I think it's around 2007. Yeah, I just wanted to show you this. Anyway, there is a fun little structure here, so let's crack out the camera and take a photograph of it. So basically, I believe this structure in front of me is where a lot of the shipping traffic is directed from. I believe it's something to do with traffic on the River Humber, and it's where it's all automated from nowadays. But yeah, this station did used to be manned, but sadly, like I say, it's all been automated, and it's a damn shame really, isn't it? But this path seems like a fun little leading line. There's some greenery either side. It just looks like a very rusty derelict. There's just something about it. It's got character, it's got shape, and it looks really good fun. So let's figure out a focal length and an aperture. We'll just take a little photograph of it just on this little documentary walk around here that I'm currently, you know what I mean. So that looks okay. So we're at, call that 20 millimeters. I don't know why I'm doing that, because the viewfinder does actually tell me. 20 millimeters, f4, ISO 200, a 3/20th of a second. Here's that photograph. So onwards we now go. This track is getting ever more sketchy, shall we put it, especially for a bike such as the one that I'm on. And there are forks and all kinds of things leading off in all kinds of directions. I'll be honest, I've never been this far down. I'm now riding on sand. This is going to end bad. I think I'm making a U-turn here. I think I'm looping back around to the other side of the path where I just came from. Like I said, I've never actually been down here. Whoa. There's just ruins and all kinds of fun stuff around here. Oh, let's see if we can get back pedaling. My push bike is battery powered, so it is a little bit like I'm using all-wheel drive for some of this in the car. Only it's a struggle. Right, I have come the wrong way, but look, all of these ruins around here. I never actually knew any of this existed. I think I took the wrong fork. Let's head back and see if we can figure this one out. Alright, I've seen what I'm looking for, and it is still there. But from this little vantage point, it looks like it's going to be difficult to ride the push bike, and I really don't want to push it, but I don't think I'll have any other options. There is a signpost, and it has some key locations around the world, and it has distances to these places. So when I said that this place is East Yorkshire's own little Land's End, it's a very similar thing, only a lot less tourists and a lot more inaccessible. But there are trails, the bike may handle it. Hopefully we can get there and get a nice little picture. So I made it, and I'm glad to say it's all still here. There's some little seating area just behind me. A post with Copenhagen, Reykjavik, John O'Groats, Land's End, Casablanca, Sydney, all kinds of fun things like that. I wonder if there's some kind of solar powered thing. There's a little bit of light in the background of this photograph, so I need to figure out a focal length, figure out a composition, and just take a photograph of all of this. Like I said, I've always known this was here. I've just never had the chance to get down to it. So let's have a look. Let's see what photograph I can take of it, and hopefully get something really quite fun looking with a 12-100mm. I'm happy to have finally made this one. I genuinely really am happy. So in all honesty, a composition here is, well, it's fairly straightforward and self-explanatory. There are three elements to it. There's the bench, there's a signpost, and there is a solar powered thing. And we've got a lot of sand and a lot of grass. Around them, there's a little bit of sunset lighting, a little bit golden light, just peeking through some of the lower, less dense clouds in the background, which is, well, quite nice to add to this photograph. So let's look at some shooting settings. So f5.6, a 1/25th of a second, and ISO 200. I'm going to focus on the middle of the three objects. I'm going to focus on the post. That way the depth of field will fall either side of that lunge, hopefully encompass the other objects in this image, and everything else, it doesn't really matter if it's in focus or not. So let's refocus, recompose, like that. Bosh. Here's a photograph. Enjoy. So for this next little bit, I'm going to leave the trusty steed here. I'm going to trust in the fact that I've not seen another human being since I left the car park, and it doesn't really seem like there's anybody else about. We're going to go for a walk along this little track. It's only 100 metres or so. But basically, it leads you to the very tip, the very point of Spurn Point, which is somewhere I've always wanted to visit and just see what's there. Probably nothing, probably just beach and open expanse, but I thought it'd be fun to maybe try and grab something with both the North Sea and the Humber Estuary in all at once. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Just let me wave goodbye to my push bike that I may never see again. Let's find out. How would you like the new glasses, by the way? I went to opticians a couple of weeks ago and it became apparent that I can't see. So yeah, probably explains some of the photographs, doesn't it, in all actual? Yeah. Right, so let's get down to the beach and let's see just what the very tip of Spurn Point looks like. So this is it. This is the very tip of Spurn Point. It's the very end of East Yorkshire. I suppose right now I am the most southerly and most easterly person on land in the county where I live. That's pretty cool. I'll be honest, there's no photo opportunities here. There's nothing to take a photograph of. It is just desolate beach, but you know, just to tick it off, we finally made the very end. Yeah. It'd be fun to spend a night out here. Now there's a thought. So just as I said there was nothing here to take a photograph of, a little bit of golden hour light has just poked through behind one of the little, what's called boys' buoys, one of the little navigation boats in the Humber. It's the green one. I'm going to try and take a photo of it handheld. This may be fun to achieve. So F9 not happening. Let's go back the other way. F5.6. What's going on? F5.6. There we go. I'm in PS mode. Why are we in P mode? I want aperture mode. That explains what's going on. It's got knocked in my pocket. So focused, F5.6 at 500ths of a second, ISO 200. Well, at least we've got a photograph from the very tip. And just as he says that, there is a really large vessel approaching. I wonder if it might be worth hanging about and just seeing if this really big ship in the distance just falls into some of that light. Let's find out. So good news, my push bike is still here. Right, it's time to head now to hopefully get this long exposure photograph that I've been talking about for most of this video after we've had a little bit of an explore. So, it's time to put the GoPro away. I'll film the rest of the video on a proper camera, but I'll tell you what, for this kind of thing, GoPros are fantastic. They're invaluable little things when you're doing this kind of thing. So, got a new GoPro, you've kept up, but it's time to switch to proper camera and it's time to take a proper photograph. Now, I'm hoping some of this golden light behind me does kick around, hang around and intensify a little bit, but we're now out from sunset. Time will tell. Let's get down to where we need to be. So just over my shoulder in the Humber Estuary there is an old wooden structure. It's some kind of posty thing with a set of ladders, and I always thought it would make for a really fun, minimal, long exposure photograph. The only problem is every time I've been down here I get distracted by lighthouses and wooden posts on the beach at the other side. But tonight I've made the decision that it is this little structure's time for a long exposure photograph, and as I was hoping, the tide has now risen around it, so we've got plenty of water to play with. The only issue I can maybe foresee is the height of the wall behind me, as daft as that sounds. My tripod isn't the biggest, it's a small carbon fibre travel tripod, which is light and easy for me to carry around, but it's not the best height-wise, but we should be able to clear this. So let's get a camera set up, let's get some filters looked at, and see if we can take a minimalistic fine art photograph of whatever that thing may be. Oof. Just got the clearance. So because of the shape and orientation of this object, whatever it may be, I'm going to do a portrait photograph, the tall, skinny one. Basically, I'm going to work with the shape rather than fight against it. There's no point trying to stretch something out long ways. I don't think. This may change, but I don't think I'm going to go landscape, but we'll see. We'll see how this looks. So let's get something roughly composed and focus locked in. There we go. So, ooh, the horizon. Ooh, God. The horizon is just going to clip the top of it. That's a shame, but not a lot we can really do. There's nowhere else I can really go to get any height to keep it above it, but just still work. So let's have a look at some shooting settings and take this photograph. So I was going to do nothing but this object in the Humber estuary, but having fiddled about with the composition, I've kind of realised I can do beach, river and sky in equal portions on the rule of thirds lines, and I thought that may just make it look a little bit different to what I would normally do. I'm just putting some filters on here. I've got a polarising filter and a 10 stop filter. So let's have a look. So I've already got the ND 125 turned on in the camera. I'm just going to have to reduce that a little bit. Let's try ND8. This is a baseline. Where are we going? That's 4 seconds. I'm trying to get a 60-second exposure dialed in. All right, F4. So if we've got F5.6, which is my go-to little aperture, I'm going to reduce the live ND strength by a stop to ND2, and that should enable me. There we go, F5.6, 60 seconds, ISO 200, with ND4 turned on the live ND in the camera, a 10 stop filter on the front, and the polarizer. So let's now rotate the polarizer just to take some shiny bits off the water, because we don't want them in there, and hopefully we'll be able to get this before the sea or the tide or the river. It's tidal, so it's both and all three, get any higher. Let's have a look. So yeah, I'm happy with that. All right, let's go for it. Let's take this photograph. So I've turned the live ND off. I've decided I'm just going to use actual ND filters for this, and I've got a little bit more control over the exposure using the aperture. You can see that I'm almost 2 stops overexposed. I'm 1.7 stops overexposed at 60 seconds and f5.6. It's basically because there is such a dark scene, it's mostly just midtones. So I thought if we overexpose, we may get away with this and may be able to just dial things back a little bit. We're not going to overexpose anything you can see on the histogram at the top of the frame, but it just lets a little bit more light into the camera. So let's go ahead. Let's take this first photograph. I've decided I'm going to take a second one as well. I'm going to zoom right in on this object in the distance, whatever it may be. We're going to go to 100mm and we're going to take a really sort of zoomed in close up blue hour long exposure photo of this. I thought it'd be a shame while we're here to not do that. I think that's the right way around. English isn't my strong point right now, neither is this camera's autofocus system. Anyway, this photograph here is taking, once I've done that I'll show it to you and then we'll zoom in and take a photograph of that, but the camera's not really doing focusing things. Right, so I hope that looked okay. In my mind it may have worked. It's just using the rule of thirds just to lay things, beach, river and sky with the subject right in the middle. You let me know if you think it worked or not, but right now we're going to go for something I'm a little bit more comfortable with, a single subject, very minimalistic. So again, I'm 2 stops overexposed, again 5.6, 60 seconds and ISO 200. This time I've zoomed in right to the 100mm marker, 200mm full frame equivalent field of view. Let's go ahead, let's take this next photograph. This is the one that I came out to take, it's the one that I had in mind. So as soon as the camera's done its thing, I'll show it to you. So having been out and used the Olympus 12-100 f4 Pro lens, I can see why you all like it so much. I like the versatility of it. Now, as I said in my previous video, my go-to lens for micro four thirds is the Olympus 12-40 f2.8 Pro. It is a great all-round lens, but where it lacks is a little bit of that extra reach. Sometimes you can't just get close enough. You have to physically move, and sometimes there are restrictions in place, sometimes you can't quite get there. So I've found tonight that the extra reach of this lens has really come in handy, as well as the wide angle side of it. It really is a lens that you can throw on your camera, go for a walk around while on holiday, while exploring, and you probably won't regret not bringing anything else along with you. And that's where this lens is aimed. It's just a fantastic all-rounder. Yes, f4 is a little bit on the slow side for a fixed aperture zoom lens, but what you're losing in light, you're more than gaining in versatility. There's a link down in the description of this video where you can purchase this from Owen Systems' own website, and at this current moment in time they're running a cashback sale, a summer cashback sale. You can save up to £600 on some lenses, so why not check it out in the video description down below. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's video. I've certainly enjoyed making it. Coming down here on the push bike, it's definitely made things a little bit easier. It's taken a lot of the walk out of it. I'm not as tired as I normally would be, so it's been quite good fun to actually make this one. If you have enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up and a like. It does help to bring new viewers to see my content. And if you're new here and you see me for the very first time, you want to see some more micro four thirds content every single week, why not hit that subscribe button down below? You'll see more of that every time I upload a video. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'm now going to cycle all the way back down to the car. I wish you a very good night.